Although I'm primarily a Mac user, I've long been a fan of Dell's XPS 13. Since they released the first thin bezel model in 2015, the XPS 13 has been in a class of its own. The only problem is they are kind of expensive. So one day out of curiosity, I took a look at the prices of parts for the 2019 model, the XPS 9380. I figured that providing I could get the parts cheap enough, I could make my own XPS 13 for about half the price of a new one or 200 to 300 less than a complete used one on eBay. Although I've obviously bought individual parts for faulty laptops before, this would be the first time that I built a complete laptop entirely out of parts, so it would be an interesting project. The first thing I did was make a list of the parts I needed. There were a few prerequisites. First, I wanted the white version because I think it looks nicer, I wanted the Core i7, and I wanted 16GB of RAM. I also wanted the 4K touchscreen, not particularly because of the touch feature, but for the better color reproduction and the higher resolution. I also wanted the parts to be either new or in as new condition. So with the list prepared, I took to eBay to buy the parts, and they gradually arrived over the course of the next 2 weeks. First to arrive was the motherboard. It has a quad-core Intel Core i7 8565U CPU and 16GB of RAM. I bought this from a seller in Ireland, which is where Dell has their European HQ. It's refurbished by Dell themselves to new condition and still has the warranty seals intact. This was for sale with a buy it now price of €290, but I made an offer of €250, which was accepted. Next to arrive was the top case. This was a pull from a new machine, so it was in brand new condition. What made me choose this particular one was the fact that it included a lot of the other components. As well as the keyboard and the trackpad, it has the power button and fingerprint reader. It comes with both speakers and the audio jack. These were all parts that other eBay sellers were selling individually for between 30 and €50 each. So I was very lucky to find this one listed with everything included, and it cost me just €44. Next, a couple of days later, the screen arrived. This is the 4K touch version in white. As with the top case, this was a pull from a nearly new machine, and it was in perfect condition. As a bonus, it also came with a metal bracket for the antenna cables, which others were selling separately for €20. This was listed on eBay UK for £200, but I put in an offer of £180, which is accepted. Next to arrive was the battery. Although I could have saved a lot of money by buying a third-party battery or a used one, I wanted to get a brand new original Dell battery. This one cost me €90 from an authorized Dell supplier and came with the warranty seal still intact. Next, I received the CPU heat pipe assembly and the SSD bracket. Both of these parts were advertised as being for the 9370 rather than the 9380, but both models share a lot of the same components, so I was able to buy 9370 parts where the 9380 specific parts either weren't available or were too expensive. The SSD bracket cost me €11 and the heat pipe was €8. The fan arrived next, which was also advertised as being for the 9370, but the 9380 uses the exact same fan. It cost me €35 and it's brand new and unused. The lower case was one of the last parts to arrive. It was advertised as used but in as new condition and it cost me €25. After inspection, I couldn't see any marks or signs of use at all on the outside. It looked brand new. But on the inside there was a little burn mark, so it looks like a surface mount component burnt out on the motherboard and they decided to sell the parts separately. That was all the main parts bought. All that was left to buy now was the screws. The XPS 13 uses many different types and sizes of screws for different components, and it's important to buy the right ones. Luckily, Dell lists all of the screws in the service manual, so it was easy to find the ones I needed. I was able to get most of them from the same eBay seller, although there were a couple that I couldn't find here in Europe, so I had to order them from China. In total, I spent about €18 just on screws, but I have a lot left over in case I need them in future. And so it was finally time to start putting everything together. I've sped this part up, otherwise the video would be about 3 hours long. For the SSD, I chose a 500GB PNY CS3030. This is a very good value NVMe SSD with read speeds up to 3500 megabytes per second, which I got on sale for only €69. It's a perfect match for the XPS 13. Unfortunately, when it came time to install the heatsink, I realized that I'd made a mistake. The screw holes on the heatsink were in the wrong place. Although most parts are interchangeable, it appears that the heatsink was one of the few parts that Dell changed between the XPS 9370 and the 9380. So it was back to eBay again to buy another heatsink, this time the right one. Looking at the two side by side, you can see just how similar they really are. Before putting on the bottom cover, I just used a Q-tip dampened with isopropyl alcohol to clean that little burn mark off the inside. Finally, it was time to press the power button to turn on the laptop and find out if it worked. To my relief, it started first time. On the first power on, it asks you to enter the service tag. Because this motherboard was refurbished by Dell, it's been factory reset. Normally you'd find the service tag on the lower cover, and you'd provide it to Dell if you ever needed warranty repair. Since there's obviously not going to be any warranty on this laptop, and because the lower case I bought may be from a machine with a completely different spec to the one I actually built, I just made up a service tag in the correct format and clicked OK. Then I ran the Dell diagnostics to make sure that everything was working, which passed with no issues. After that, it was just a case of installing Windows 10 Pro using an external USB drive. So this was my first laptop built completely using parts from eBay, and it was a very enjoyable project. The total cost of the parts was €748, including the price of the SSD. That's about €350 less than the cheapest XPS 139380 with the same spec, currently for sale on eBay at the time of making this video. Most of the parts were either new or refurbished to new condition. I could have saved money if I'd gone for a used or refurbished battery, or bought lower spec components like a Core i5 motherboard instead of the Core i7, or a 1080p screen instead of the 4K one. That would have taken maybe $200 to $300 off the total cost, but I really wanted the best specification possible. More important than the money though is that it was a fun project to do. and it's given me the confidence to do more builds like this in the future. The next step was to install macOS, but that's a subject for another video. That's it for this video, thanks for watching.